It's Canada's own Sarah McLachlan in an electrifying one-hour concert. Sarah McLachlan fumbling towards ecstasy Tuesday at 8.
In today's world of beers, Molson Dry is in a world all its own. Molson Dry, a world without aftertaste.
For Seinfeld, Wednesday at 10 on CFCF 12.
This evening on Pulse, the day after, devastation drops from the summer skies over Aylmer, Quebec. And a magical music tour stops over at Montreal City Hall. Good evening. Mitsumi is off. The town of Aylmer, Quebec woke up from a nightmare today. Late yesterday, a freak summer storm turned into a tornado and literally flattened parts of the town. Today, the people of Aylmer began picking up the pieces of their shattered homes and lives. Rhonda McMichael reports.
Sonia Rayom is thankful she's alive. She was trapped in a hallway when the tornado blew through. The roof of her house ended up 2 blocks away. She escaped with only an injured knee.
They were there in 2 minutes. Right when I got to the neighbors, they put something around my knee, and there was someone there in 2 minutes to take care of me.
People in Aylmer are overwhelmed at how quickly emergency crews were on the scene.
The damage was just extensive. The street was completely blocked off with debris, but it was very, very well handled. I mean, the RCMP were here, the Quebec Provincial Police Force responded. Just amazing.
So we're very satisfied. I think we're tops. I think we could give lessons to the whole world how we handled that yesterday.
Power was restored to most houses at 4 o'clock this morning. Today, the streets are filled with hydro and maintenance trucks. Emergency repairs are underway.
We're trying to make the houses secure so no more water goes in. And once that's done, then we're going to start cleaning the inside of the houses right away to save the contents and minimize the losses inside the house as well.
Firefighters are making sure houses are structurally sound and escorting people into their homes to pick up a few pieces of clothing. Right now, many houses and a few streets are still blocked off. This morning, plans were also discussed to ask for aid from the Quebec government.
These would be case-by-case studies that would be done to see if, if people are in real need. I think there's something we should be able to do better.
Insurance adjusters are on site talking to their clients, making relocation arrangements and handing out checks. Frank Rayom's home was destroyed, but his insurance agent was on site bright and early to help him move on with his life.
Immediately trying to salvage what can be salvaged, and will be put up at a residence in Hull for the time being. And it's just a question of making arrangements now with contractors and whatever to start reconstruction.
Contractors estimate it will take until next week to finish emergency repairs. Then people will start rebuilding their homes.
The storm also brought tragedy to the town of Ancaster, Ontario. A 19-year-old killed instantly when he was hit by lightning while playing in a baseball tournament. This afternoon, the town held a memorial service for the victim. Pat Foran reports.
The Calgary Blues gave everything they had today in memory of their teammate Matt Kroll. In their matchup against the Cape Breton Dodgers, the team never let up. Kroll, a 19-year-old left fielder, died when a freak lightning bolt came out of the sky and struck him as he stood in the outfield. 4 other players were knocked to the ground, and a total of 23 people were treated for shock. Today, with the flags at half-mast, all players were back on the field wearing black armbands in honor of their fallen teammate. The score was 16-2 in the 5th inning when Cape Breton gave up. Calgary coach Barry Bloomfield says his team did it for Matt.
They feel for Matt's family, and I just wish he was right here in left field and his dad was sitting here in the stands keeping score. And
some of the Calgary players said they could feel Matt's presence on the playing field.
I think we have an advantage now. It's like we have like 10 guys out there instead of 9.
He does motivate us, and we do remember him. We always will. I'll never forget Matt. There's just so many good qualities about him.
Following today's game, there was a memorial service for the Calgary player,
Matt Kroll.
The Calgary team will now move on to play Windsor tomorrow. Tournament organizers have rearranged schedules so the ball club will not have to return to the Ancaster Diamond, where they lost their teammates yesterday.
The severe thunderstorms bypassed Montreal, of course, but some areas to the north and west of the city were hit by both winds and heavy rain. In Laurel, near Moran Heights, a tornado touched down. Ann Lewis has more.
Repair crews spent the day cleaning up after the storm. Power lines were downed by high winds, and trees fell on houses and across roads. Buildings in the Canadiana Village, a popular Rawdon tourist attraction, were heavily damaged. In Laurel, in the Laurentians, a tornado hit just before 4 o'clock Thursday. About 30 houses were damaged, some seriously. Some people lost telephone service when poles were blown down, and several thousand people in the Laurel-Wentworth area were left without electricity. No one was injured in the storm. Ann Lewis, Pulse News.
This is Anne Chatilla coming up on Pulse. Daniel Johnson says economic recovery is here, and Jacques Parizeau courts the municipalities. We'll have details from the election desk in just a few minutes.
Now, Richard Lahire, the former head of the Quebec Manufacturing Association, one of the Parti Québécois' star candidates, may be in some really hot water. In a television program called Power of the North, produced by Wild Heart Productions, Lahire was discussing hydro development in the North. Some who have seen the show accuse him of making provocative, even bigoted comments about Northern natives. Here is that controversial excerpt from the program.
We happen to need it for our own development. Who is going to tell us that we can't do it? I would have something to learn from them if it could be shown that their culture has demonstrated its superiority in one form or another. The last time we stood still, it was in the Middle Ages. When you look at what heritage has been left by native civilizations, if you can call them civilizations, there is very little.
Caroline Van Vlartigan joins us now. She has a look at some of the other stories we've been covering today. Caroline?
Thanks, Bill. Well, some National Bank customers were inconvenienced today after a fire last night. The fire took place at 500 Place d'Armes, and it was apparently caused by electrical problems. And this meant problems for the National Bank's offices there, as well as its business service center for the Montreal region located at Place d'Armes. Customers were advised to go to the National Bank's Victoria Square offices and others in the Montreal area for the time being. A small fire forced residents out of a Cremazie Boulevard apartment building yesterday evening. It took firefighters just over half an hour to bring the blaze under control. Residents were able to return to their homes last night, and there's no word yet as to how the fire started. And as well, there's some good news about those seals that were rescued in the Old Port earlier this week. They were dehydrated and suffering from an infection, and vets at the Biodome began treatment with a dextrose solution and antibiotics and said they'd hope for a complete recovery. Well, today they announced that the male is fine and should be released next week, and the female ate for the first time on her own today. She has improved significantly since Monday, but her condition is still unpredictable. And the folks over at the Biodome say there is no risk of releasing them separately, since they will probably go their own separate ways eventually anyway. Bill?
Thank you, Caroline. I wonder what they were saying to each other. Montreal City Hall played host to some very special guests this afternoon. The Hong Kong Children's Choir, the young singers, currently touring Canada, and they're in town for the weekend. Stéphane Giroux paid them a visit.
The Hong Kong Children's Choir has been around for 25 years, but its members are no older than 16. and some are as young as 10. Their talent has brought them worldwide fame. And if you wonder why, here's a sample of what they do. They've recorded numerous albums and toured the world repeatedly. They admit it's tough at that age, but they know how to keep the spirit up.
I like to be together with a group of people, and we help each other, and it's a very great experience.
Their repertoire includes a blend of Western folk songs, classical music, and traditional Chinese numbers. It's a labor of love for the directors of the troupe.
Students learn a lot, have a good experience to communicate to the foreigner.
The Hong Kong Children's Choir will be performing live tomorrow night at the St. Jean-Baptiste Church. Tickets are available at the door. Stéphane Giroux, Pulse News.
Now, for 37 Canadian children, it was the trip of a lifetime. The young dancers have just returned from China, where they performed to appreciative crowds. As Nicole Brown reports, it was an experience they won't soon forget.
It's every young dancer's dream come true, an opportunity to perform in front of thousands of people from around the world. The message this Ottawa group brought to Shanghai was universal.
Having the opportunity to go to Shanghai and present this message of peace as a Canadian message too, as a multicultural message, as a total Canada working together in peace and harmony was too much to give up.
We were the only ones there with that message, which I think is really important. Canada being the world peace almost symbol in today's world. And it was really well done. I don't think we needed words for that one.
The 37 students of Worldwide Dance for Peace were such a hit in China that organizers moved their performances to the end of each show, making them the headlining act. Now returned to Ottawa, it's back to reality and rehearsals. Not even the jet lag can take away the memories of a once-in-a-lifetime trip.
It's really good to represent Canada.
I didn't expect it to be as big as it was, and everyone was watching and they thought it was good.
It's just a feeling. You just can't put it into words. You're just very proud, and you want them to know what kind of country Canada is because you consider it one of the best.
Nicole Brown in Ottawa.
Coming up on Pulse, a Quebec cabinet minister, a multi-million-dollar infusion of cash into English education. But is it electioneering?
Introducing McDonald's California Double, a double cheeseburger, California style. With fresh lettuce, a slice of tomato, and chopped onions. Plus a shot of our special California sauce. The California Double, our taste of the month for August.
Herzing Institute can help change your life. Since 1965, Herzing Institute has provided its students with quality service and training.
It's the best thing I ever did. Thanks to Herzing, I found a great job.
Computer programming, electronics, office automation.
At Herzing Institute, I finally got the training and confidence I needed.
Maybe it's time you changed your life too. Call 935-7494 to find out more. Herzing Institute, 935-7494.
A man lies dead by his own hand, yet this boy remains silent.
Critics are calling the client a masterpiece.
You talk to the feds tomorrow, I'll kill you.
Thrilling, gripping, sensational.
Why should he talk if we can't protect him?
Heart-pounding entertainment. The smartest thriller since The Fugitive. Susan Sarandon. Academy Award winner Tommy Lee Jones.
Haven't we played enough games here?
The Client. Now playing in English and French.
Get serious with Paul Reiser, Catherine O'Hara, and Seinfeld.
Is it serious or is it a comedy show?
A whole month of comedy specials with up-and-comers.
I'd love to play the dog in an orchestra one day.
Comedy greats.
When you're the headliner, you're the guy now.
And home movies.
My question is, people that live in Hawaii, where do they honeymoon? New Jersey? No?
A must for anyone who needs a laugh. Stop the insanity in your life. Monday at 8 on CFCF 12.
Well, the buses continued to roll on the campaign trail today. The Liberals in Rivière-du-Loup, Rimouski, and Points East, the Parti québécois in the eastern townships, and both party leaders making promises, one to students, the other to municipalities. All the details, here's Ann Shatilla. She's sitting at the election desk. Ann?
Thanks, Bill. Well, Daniel Johnson took both the high road and the low road today on the campaign trail. On the high road, he was talking economic recovery. During a stop in Rivière-du-Loup today, he boasted about employment figures released this morning, showing 31,000 new jobs here in Quebec last month and 83,000 since the beginning of this year. And he opened the Liberal goodie bag for young Quebecers. The Premier announced a major apprenticeship program that would create 50,000 internships for CEGEP students who are taking professional courses in school.
Recognizing internship programs where students go from the school into the workplace and back to school and so on, so that they get a better work experience and can get more out of their education.
He then moved to the low road and he took aim at Lucien Bouchard and Jacques Parizeau for their seemingly contradictory approaches to independence. The issue, Bloc Québécois leader Bouchard keeps saying a PQ government would have no right to pass a solemn declaration expressing Quebec's will to separate, at least not until after a referendum. Well, Parizeau continues to promise he will do exactly that, but he says it's merely a declaration of intent.
I've said for a long, long time, look, the Parti québécois is sovereignist before, during, and after the elections. Just after the election, there will be a statement of intention like that. Does it give the power to do anything? Not at all, not in the least. The powers to do things we can only have after the referendum.
That issue aside, Jacques Parizeau was in the townships where he proposed the creation of a provincial municipal joint development fund. Under the plan, Quebec would provide seed money for local public works projects. He also tossed another plum to municipal governments. He said in a sovereign Quebec, the PQ might let municipalities levy their own sales tax.
In the United States, sales tax are administered by the states and the municipalities. Municipalities can have a sales tax, can determine the amount of the sales tax. It can be discussed. It's an interesting thought.
But some of those interesting thoughts have angered some Liberal cabinet ministers. Industry Minister Gérald Tremblay and Transport Minister Norm Cherry held a news conference today. They denounced the costs of Jacques Parizeau's campaign promises.
If you look at his past declarations, he said that it's not important for him if the deficit goes higher. And basically what he's saying is that we can increase the expenses, increase the deficit, increase the debt, as long as it creates jobs. All we're saying is that it's very difficult to do that, and when we're coming out of an economy, we just created 83,000 jobs. It's positive. Our position is that we should reduce the deficit, reduce our debts, and really go back to a government that answered the real needs of the population with the priority to create jobs.
And as expected, the smaller parties are still hot under the collar about being excluded from that televised debate that will take place August 29th. The leader of the Action Démocratique, Mario Dumont, says it was the Liberals and the PQ that made sure that he was out, and it wasn't a broadcaster's decision.
They don't want this debate to
to discuss the MNA's pensions funds. They don't want this debate to discuss the elimination of the deficit. They don't want this debate to discuss the real representation of the population at the National Assembly. They want an old debate on all issues in which they are very comfortable, but for which the population has no more interest in 1994.
But what about an English television debate? Well, Jacques Parizeau, when asked today, said he'd take part. He said could be a lot of fun. But it's a more serious matter for Keith Henderson, the head of the Equality Party. He is actively calling for an English debate. And that's it from the election desk for this Friday.
This is Caroline Van Vlardingen. Coming up, making the perfect bagel.
Now, our next story sounds, well, it sounds very much like an election story. But the people involved, especially the politicians, insist that it's not. Whatever it is, one thing's sure. It's $19 million worth of good news for Dawson College. Ralph Noseworthy has more.
Good news for Dawson College, a $19 million construction project. First, as we see by this model, a new wing on the Mason of Street side. The parking lot to be turned into another wing containing 3 gyms on the first floor, classrooms on the second level. Another addition for students with free time. The new classrooms will accommodate some 2,000 students. That means the aging Selby campus will be closed in 1996.
The effect on students of studying in substandard facilities in terrible areas is not to be underestimated. I think it'll be really wonderful and it will be a great boost.
It means all Dawson students will no longer have to be bused between Dawson and Selby or to other colleges for gym classes. Quebec's Education Minister Jacques Chagnon dropped by at Dawson today for the official announcement. The ministry is kicking in $5 million of the $19 million project, but he did not bring a check with him.
The work won't begin before next spring, so you don't pay before the job is done.
Chagnon happens to be the Liberal candidate in the Westmount riding, where Dawson is located, but he insists his giving the green light to the project has absolutely nothing to do with the election campaign.
It's got nothing to do with an election campaign.
Not at all. Not at all. Exactly.
The new facilities will be ready in the fall of 1996. Ralph Noseworthy, Pulse News.
Walmart Canada has announced 6 new vendor partner agreements with Western Canadian companies. The agreements will supply more than $7 million worth of lawn and garden products to Walmart's 122 stores over the next year. Now a look at the day's markets. More and more unemployed Canadians are finding work. In the last 7 months, the number of jobs in the country has grown by 250,000. That's driven the unemployment rate down to its lowest level in 3 years. Bill Rogers reports.
This is the industry most responsible for the brighter job picture. Motor vehicle manufacturing has been rebounding.
There's no question but what the auto sector is very important to Canada. I mean, it constitutes the largest portion of exports, and it's doing very, very well. So it's a very positive side in terms of the Canadian economy.
Consumers are finally replacing the aging vehicles they've been hanging on to through the recession. A Bank of Canada report this week estimates the average age of a car on the roads today is closing in on 7 years. While the auto sector is leading the way in creating work, the electronics industry is also picking up, along with construction. The national unemployment rate now stands at 10.2%, down 0.1% from June. Quebec and Ontario, the hardest hit by the recession, benefit the most from job growth last month. Another bright spot is that of the more than 200,000 jobs created in the last 6 months, virtually all of them are full-time jobs. And summer jobs for students are up 33,000 over last year. That's the first improvement in labor market conditions for them in 4 years. Bill Rogers, Ottawa.
It's one of the things Montrealers miss most when they leave this city. No, not the view from the mountain, certainly not our politics or our potholes. It's the bagel you see, and not just any bagel, the very best, made with expert hands, as Caroline Van Vlartigan reports.
What's in a bagel? Well, if you talk to most people, just a lot of dough and not much else. But if you ask this man, he'll tell you a lifetime. How many years you been doing this, Jaime?
59 years.
Do you remember your first bagel?
Yeah. When I was 12 and a half years old.
Since then, Jaime Sucurwire has made more bagels than you could count. And he doesn't just make your standard bagel either.
I can make about 10 of kinds of bagels. 10 of kinds. I'll show you.
It's the old-fashioned bagels, just with the twister, the pretzel, the tiny mini, the mini pretzel, the mini twister, and so on. So it's just, he's just a great guy.
What's your favorite?
My favorite bagel is this.
The old-fashioned way.
Old-fashioned. Really?
He calls them Warsaw bagels, just like his father made back in Warsaw. Now he's teaching others how to carry on the tradition. He even tried to teach me. Voila, bagel.
See, again, I teach in my life hundreds of kids. They should survive and make a living.
Some of his better students, like Meyer Letkovich, have even gone on to run bagel shops of their own.
He's one of the original people that brought it here to Montreal. There's 2 or 3 originals that started out. He's one of them.
Hi, how are you?
Jaime now lives in New York, but every couple of months he comes back to Montreal to see his old friends and roll some dough with some of the young guys, like Lloyd, who's been at it for only 13 years.
I got plenty of experience, but it really outdoes me.
And he's promised his own kids he'll open a bagel shop for them in Miami, so there'll be a touch of Montreal there as well.
And I'm going to do it. I promise them, and I'll do it.
Caroline Van Vlartigan, Pulse News.
Pass the cream cheese.
And the locks. Great weekend coming up. The whole story after we check what's on in entertainment this week.
What's On is brought to you by Ford of Canada, where quality is job one.
Just when you thought the festival season was winding down, in comes Les Francopholies de Montréal. This celebration of French language music moved up on the calendar this year and features over 100 free outdoor and 24 indoor shows. Laurence Jalbert, Luc de la Rochelière, and Daniel Bélanger are just a few of the artists performing right up until next Saturday. A British rapper and a couple of Brooklyn hip-hop artists formed the core of US3, a band that calls itself a jazz, funk, hip-hop marriage made in heaven. They'll come down from the clouds long enough to play Metropolis Club tonight at 9. Meantime, way off Broadway and up in the Laurentians, you can hear some of the best of Broadway music, including tunes from The Phantom, Evita, Miss Saigon, and Hair. Broadway Montreal is at the Galerie des Monts in Saint-Sever and has been extended until September the 3rd. On Monday night, Joe Bocan is at Maisonneuve Park, and she'll be at a Hunsick Park in the North End on Tuesday. Both shows are free and start at 8:30. If you listen to the critics, Harrison Ford's latest film may be in danger, but Clear and Present Danger is the latest action-adventure film starring Hollywood's most reluctant hero. Ann Archer and Willem Dafoe share the bill.
You guys have a song. No one will listen to them.
And if you've ever wondered why Airheads succeed, well, go to L.A., or better yet, stay here and go see Airheads, a comedy about a struggling L.A. rock band with everything, a sound, a look, attitude, but not a lot of gray matter. Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, and Adam Sandler star. And that's what's on for this week.
If you have a sporty nature and like the sporty look, then you're going to love the 94 Escort LX Sport for only $10,995. With its 1.9-liter engine, tachometer, sports steering wheel, rear spoiler, and 14-inch aluminum wheels, this is your kind of sport. The Escort LX Sport is yours for only $10,995. So hurry and choose your Escort at your Ford dealers and Lincoln Mercury dealers. More and more for you.
From now on, Pantene Conditioner's new size is 50% bigger, but the price isn't bigger, and that could save you 33%. So for hair so healthy looking, it shines. Try Pantene Conditioner. A big change means better value.
Why does the world need a more powerful bleach cleaner?
For one interesting little reason. The one who has more than just his feet on the ground. And who occasionally forgets it's his toy he's lost. Not his lunch.
Introducing the tough cleaning power of Comet with the disinfecting power of bleach. For a different kind of Comet, new Comet Bleach Cleaner. Watch as it disinfects and out-cleans the leading bleach cleaner.
Hey, I may not venture into some of the darker places in my world face first, but chances are he will.
New Comet Bleach Cleaner. When others can't cut it, Comet can.
I was born during Montreal's big Olympic year, which makes me 18 today. So I get to vote for the first time in my life on September 12th. I wouldn't miss it for anything. Enumerators are coming August 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th to put me on the electoral list. Hey, I'm not going to miss them either. Because nothing's going to stop me from voting on September 12th.
Why aren't you at university? Something wrong?
No, I decided to come and see you.
Michael, this is my son, Jeremy.
My mother has mentioned you.
Has she? Well, we share a real passion for certain coffee.
Yeah, Taster's Choice.
Savor the sophisticated taste of Taster's Choice.
Hello.
Jeremy said he enjoyed meeting you.
Jeremy. Is there anything else you've forgotten to tell me?
Volumes.
Paramount Pictures presents Tom Hanks.
My name's Forrest Gump. People call me Forrest Gump.
Are you stupid or something?
Stupid is as stupid does, sir.
The world will never seem the same once you've seen it through the eyes of Forrest Gump.
Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
Now playing at theaters everywhere.
And so the sky is clearing, heading into a very cool night. We actually have a risk of ground frost in the low-lying areas in the Laurentians, north of the city, and in the eastern townships. You may want to cover up parts of your garden, Bill.
Yes.
Are you growing rosemary this year?
Yes, I am. That's fine.
Well, you may want to cover or uncover rosemary, whatever. The high today, 18, which 8 degrees below the normal reading for today's date. Unofficially, it ties the record daytime low 18 in 1991. Warm on this day, 32 in 1988. Temperatures this afternoon, 24 at St. John's, 26 at Charlottetown, 23 at Halifax, a little cooler at St. John NB, and cooler still 16 at Quebec, the 17 here, around 1 this afternoon, 16 at Ottawa, and 18 at Toronto. The Prairie's 24 at Winnipeg, the same at Regina, a pair of 25s at Calgary and Edmonton, and the 20 at Vancouver. Our satellite show tonight, patchy cloud across BC, not a bad day. It clears out across the foothills, few clouds in southern Saskatchewan, southern Manitoba, clear the Lakehead and northwestern Ontario. Most of southern Ontario, as you see, clear now. There's that present cloud bank slowly receding south of the valley, and it will clear out completely, certainly by midnight. Not a bad day in the Maritime, sunshine, Nova Scotia, PEI, and a great day in Newfoundland. Patchy cloud and cloud from Bangor, Maine, into Chesapeake Bay, right into Florida. And again today, scattered showers, Bay of Fundy as far south as Key Largo. Dry here with a ridge building in across the lower lakes. There's that cold front that gave us the heavy weather yesterday. Now along the coast, the ridge building in, it will clear out and be very cool tonight. Let's move this system for you. There it is tomorrow for Saturday. Strong ridge north and south. Still a bit on the cool side. Temperatures about 2 or 3 degrees below normal values for tomorrow's date. With dry and sunshine, nice start to the weekend. Second half of the weekend on Sunday, the high over to Boston and Cape Cod and slowly into a southerly circulation of warmer air. So 26s and 27s is the high for the day after tomorrow. So for warm air, Sunday will be the winner. We should hold on to the dry air for Monday, a bright Monday, then another system coming in for Tuesday with some cloud and possible showers. But certainly a very pleasant weekend coming up, and do enjoy it. Have a happy and safe weekend. So tonight, cool with that risk of ground frost up north and in the townships, and it'll drop to 10 in town during the night. Tomorrow, sunshine, cool and dry up to 22, so that's a few degrees below normal values. Gets better on Sunday, sunshine, warmer, high of 26. And the overnight low 10 in town, 22 the high tomorrow. Now there it is for Saint-Jovite, 6 tonight. Could go lower, 21 the high there tomorrow, 8 and 21 for Sherbrooke and the eastern townships, 8 and 21 at Quebec, 9 and 22 for Ottawa. Look at the long-range forecast. There's the beginning of the week, Monday, 27 the high, 15 the low, sunshine, and a mixture of cloud and sunshine with that new system coming out of the west, high of 27 on Tuesday. And right now at Dorval, it's 18 at Ottawa, 17 at Saint-Jovite and Trois-Rivières, 18 at Quebec, 16 Chicoutimi, and 17 for Baie-Comeau. The sun will rise at 5:44 tomorrow, set at 8:19. The wind throughout the period, westerly and light. Humidity is really dropping off, 52% with the cloud breaking up. Right now it's 18 Celsius, 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Cool night coming up. The sports, here's Rob.
Thank you. And on to Pennsylvania for the Expos.
That's right. They spent a lot of time there. The Expos take their 5-game lead in the NL East to the state of Pennsylvania for the next week. 2 stops this weekend, first in Philadelphia, then they go off to Pittsburgh before the strike deadline next Friday. Pedro, let me pitch you just a little inside. Martinez gets the call against David West. Now, while the Expos fiddle with the Phillies, the Braves continue their road trip. They're in Cincinnati, and the Reds are leading the Central by 3 games. Not an easy stop for them. Last night, the Expos closed out what could be their last homestand before the strike date. They'd hoped to sweep the Cardinals, but Bob Tewksbury was on his game, and only the Expos' Larry Walker could touch him up. Al Bishop has the story.
There were 2 possible explanations why 39,000 fans turned up at the Big O last night. They either came to watch the best team in baseball, or they thought it was the last time they would see their favorite team this season. With the strike date set for 1 week from today, maybe both explanations are accurate.
I think everybody feels the same as me. We don't know if we're coming back, and so we're playing like we are coming back.
Walker represents a special case. He's the only Expo eligible for free agency after the season. His 2 long homers last night brought his season totals to 18 to go along with his club-leading 82 RBI. If this strike cancels both the remainder of the regular season and the playoffs, will last night's performance be his last in an Expos uniform?
I don't think about not being a Montreal Expo, and I go on with my daily routine, and everything I do is as a Montreal Expo. That's where I'm playing now. That's where I've always been. I've never been anything else but in the minor leagues, major leagues, everything. So I don't know what it's like anywhere else. This is home. This is all I know.
But let's not get too far ahead. The immediate future is a 7-game road trip to Philly and Pittsburgh. Anything after that is up in the air.
I personally don't want to strike. I want to keep playing. This is fun. You know, we're kicking some butt, and I want to keep it going.
I honestly think that we'll be back. I really do. I honestly think that there'll be baseball back at the Big O this year at some point.
We hope you're right, Fletch. The alternative is not very attractive to the Expos or their fans. Alan Bishop, Pulse Sports.
Now shifting to the strike possibility, representatives of the baseball owners and players met briefly today in New York with no negotiations scheduled for the weekend. A formal meeting to discuss non-economic issues is set for next Monday, and a major meeting will be held only Wednesday, and that's just 2 days before the start of the baseball strike. Canada faces Argentina tonight in the 2nd game of the World Championship of Basketball. Team Canada walloped Angola last night in the opener. Tournament favorite USA with Dream Team 2 is on court right now with China. And as Randy Tiemann reports, the Americans want to avoid the struggle they had with Spain last night.
It was all Dream Team early,
but they only led by a very modest 9 points. Then the Spaniards went on a run, outscoring the Americans 20-7, and actually led at one time 42-41. Could this be a dream turned nightmare? The Americans got their act together, led by 25, and eventually won it 115-100. The Canadians were impressive in their opener against Angola. They opened with a 10-1 run, led 39-30 at the half, and then put it away in the second, outscoring the Angolans 44-12. They win it 83-52. Back to baseball, and let's roll out the highlight reel, but first, let's roll back the hands of time in Milwaukee. It was back to the 70s night. Wasn't fashion something in the 70s? Guess who the big man was in Brewtown during the 70s? Expos hitting coach Tommy Harper. Okay, let's start with the infielders. Ozzie Guillen getting loose for this. The line shot by Jose Canseco. Not bad, but it plays second fiddle to the play by Mike Lansing on Bernard Gilkey. So call me a homer. In the outfield, it was just one great play after another. The Indians' Kenny Lofton in deep center, but he makes this stuff look so routine. How about the Yankees' Paul O'Neill in right to take extra bases away from Dave Winfield? Try the Padres' Billy Bean on the gapper by Raul Mondesi. No wonder it was a 1-0 ball game. And then there's Junior, who cuts off the gapper and comes up throwing. J.T. Snow had nothing but home plate in his mind. Big mistake. Giving them something to talk about in Minnesota. Kent Herbig, first time up since announcing this would be his last season. A 2-run shot in a 9-2 loss. In Texas, it's survival of the fittest on every home run to deep center. Rusty Greer parks one, and catch the kids. And talk about kids. It took Michael Jordan more than 350 at-bats, but he finally hit one out. All the TV stations had gone home. But this is home video stuff, and Michael got a copy.
That's Steadicam, the same way I work mine. The Toronto Argonauts were hammered by Winnipeg last night at the Sky Dome. The Boatmen slipped to 2-2 with the loss. The club added a major offensive weapon today as they signed wide receiver Tommy Kane. Little Burgundy's Tommy Kane is giving the CFL a shot, and he can hardly wait. He signed a 1-year deal plus an option with the Argos. Kane flies to Toronto tonight, will be examined by team doctors tomorrow, meet the media, and will get his first chance to practice with his new team on Sunday. Kane spent most of this year recovering from Achilles tendon injuries. He was put through a rigorous training program by McGill track coach Dennis Barrett. Kane played 5 years with the Seattle Seahawks. He became a free agent and was released by the club in August of last year. During his career, he hauled in 142 passes for over 2,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. He played 57 games, starting 37. Kane says he will donate his entire Canadian Football League salary in the neighborhood of $65,000 to the West End Sports Association. Paul Azinger is back on course in his first tournament since undergoing treatment for cancer. He's taking part in the Buick Open in Michigan. They played the first round today because yesterday's play was washed out. Azinger says he's just happy to be back with the old gang on the PGA Tour. Tony Kukoc, playing for Croatia at the World Basketball Championship, said he has agreed to a 6-year, $26 million deal with the Chicago Bulls that will make him the highest paid player in the club's history. That will not make Scottie Pippen very happy. Michael Jordan, who retired in '93, was paid $3.9 million for the 92-93 season, but made a reported $32 million in endorsements. Kukoc said he has not signed a contract, but all parties have agreed to the terms. Terry Simpson, fired after just 1 season as coach of the Philadelphia Flyers, is back with the Winnipeg Jets. He signed on as an assistant coach with Winnipeg, a position he held for 3 years before taking the Flyers job. The coach who led the North Bay Centennials to the Ontario Hockey League Championship this year has quit. 57-year-old Bert Templeton has told team officials he's leaving his position as coach and GM. Templeton brought the Centennials to North Bay from Niagara Falls 12 years ago. He might be best known for coaching the Canadian national junior hockey team in 1987 when a game against the Soviet Union ended in a brawl. And where do the sprinters of the future come from? If you're looking for the next Bruni Surin or Carl Lewis, look no further. Sure, all the drooling and diapers slow them down, but at this age, it's the style you need. Style first, the speed comes second.
We'll be back.
If the beautifully rounded lines of the all-new Monte Carlo seem somehow familiar, they should. After all, we borrowed them from you. The all-new 1995 Monte Carlo, inspired by and built around you, the driver. It's your own personal space, designed from the inside out for a very personal fit. The all-new 1995 Monte Carlo, genuine Chevrolet.
Boys will be boys. Girls will be girls. But this summer, they'll all be rascals. From the director of Wayne's World and the Beverly Hillbillies.
Why am I soaking wet? I used to have the same problem.
The Little Rascals. Now playing in theaters everywhere.
In today's world of beers, Molson Dry is in a world all its own. Molson Dry, a world without aftertaste.
How do you get the most long distance for the least money?
From Sprint Canada. The most means 50% off on the person you talk to most each month. One in Canada, one in the U.S., and one overseas.
Keep talking.
The least means a guaranteed lower rate on all your long distance and no extra fees.
Isn't communication wonderful? Get the most for the least. From Sprint Canada.
He was the king, and this was the performance of a lifetime. This is the king you'll never forget. Elvis, Aloha from Hawaii, is now finally available on home video. 75 minutes of pure classic Elvis. You'll hear 30 of the king's greatest hits. This is the one legendary performance no fan should be without. This is a home video classic. Order yours now for just $29.95, and you'll also receive 2 Elvis Collector's Edition art prints commemorating this historic concert event. This is an exclusive television offer. To order yours, call 1-800-592-3838 or send $29.95 plus $4.95 shipping to Elvis TV offer, P.O. Box 3351, Station D, Willowdale, Ontario.
Bosnian Serbs say they're sorry. They're sorry. They stole back their weapons from a UN depot near Sarajevo, and it won't happen again. NATO launched an airstrike on Serb ground targets today after the weapons were seized. 2 American and 2 French planes took part in the attack.
At the Pentagon, General John Sheehan said the NATO command had sent 16 warplanes from 4 nations, including the U.S., into the skies outside Sarajevo. They had 4 potential targets, he said, but in cloudy weather ended up attacking only a single Serb artillery piece.
They put 600 rounds on this particular system right here. It's an anti-tank system. The pilot reports that it was destroyed. We have got to get positive identification.
Sheehan said the Serb anti-tank gun was hit by a U.S. A-10 Warthog fighter plane, and that immediately afterward the Serbs promised to return the stolen weapons that had triggered the UN attack. Sheehan said the mission had been authorized in advance by the UN in case the Serbs tried to steal back weapons the UN had captured. The White House immediately said it was just the kind of thing it had wanted.
As the situation has worsened, the United States has urged the UN and its NATO allies to take action if the violations did not cease.
Other U.S. officials tried to make the attack sound like much more than a reprisal for stolen weapons.
This is a way to keep additional pressure on the Bosnian Serbs to accept the contact group peace plan We hope it'll have that effect.
But on Capitol Hill, Senate Republican leader Dole said it wasn't enough, and even some Democrats indicated they agree.
It is a minimal effort, better than nothing, as we might say, but it has we have a long way to go.
DeConcini, Dole, and others want the U.S. to lift the arms embargo they say only helps the Bosnian Serbs. The White House said today that's just what will happen, though not by the U.S. alone, if the Serbs don't cut out the weapons violations and go along with the latest UN-backed peace plan. Britt Hume, ABC News, the White House.
Tony Bertley in Sarajevo, where the UN has warned the Serbs that there could be further airstrikes unless the provocation stops.
I have merely caused a pause in the NATO operation, and I expect to see those weapons back by tomorrow, or we will continue with the operation.
Today's strikes came after heavily armed Serbs took back 4 of their heavy weapons, including a tank, from one of the 8 UN warehouses situated around the Bosnian capital. The weapons were taken despite the presence of UN peacekeepers, and a UN helicopter sent in pursuit was hit 6 times by small arms fire. It's known that the Serbs have at least 9 other heavy weapons in violation of the 13-mile exclusion zone around Sarajevo, and the UN has demanded that they be handed in by tomorrow. Tonight, the Serbs appear to be trying to defuse the crisis by volunteering to hand over their heavy weapons, including the ones taken this morning. But after the NATO strike, there was an increase in sniping by the Serbs in Sarajevo. At least 1 civilian was wounded. NATO jets continue to patrol the skies over the Bosnian capital in force, looking for Serb guns. UN troops have been placed on full alert in case of Serb reprisals. All of this comes one day after Serbia cut off ties with the Bosnian Serbs. Today, the border with Serbia remains sealed. The Bosnian Serbs once again have a choice to either stop their provocation and go along with the peace process, or go it alone and continue this bitter war. Tony Bertley, ABC News, Sarajevo.
A veritable human tide is sweeping back into Rwanda. International aid agencies trying to keep the stream of refugees moving from the teeming camps set up in Zaire. Their job is complicated, though, by menacing Zairian soldiers who've raised the tensions among refugees. The aid groups are stepping up their efforts to convince the refugees to leave their dead behind, gather their belongings, and hit the road. Meantime, both the old and new governments of Rwanda are struggling for the allegiance of refugees who fill the camps in Goma, Zaire. Nathan Thomas reports.
Everybody in the camps has heard the brutal stories of death for anyone who goes back to Rwanda. No one knows if they're true, but few will risk finding out. The refugees have become pawns in Rwanda's political struggle.
Every person that goes back to Rwanda is a defeat for the former government and a win for the new government in Rwanda.
Hutu soldiers and members of the former government in the camps with the refugees are spreading the stories of more killing. They don't want anyone to go back. They want to continue the battle.
If we have ammunition, if we could have ammunition, we could, and tomorrow we can fight again.
This is the latest United Nations attempt to counter what it says are lies and rumors. Radio Katisha goes on the air today broadcasting health and humanitarian messages. But the real goal of the UN-sponsored radio station is to convince the refugees to go home. The UN and other relief agencies believe it is safe, but also know there is little attraction in going back, especially with the refugee camps becoming better each day.
The camps might become far too comfortable and might become a pull factor for the refugees to remain there.
The refugees are settling in, building more permanent structures, willing to wait for proof that it's safe to return. Since the UN will not force them to go back, it can only hope that proof comes soon, that there is some political solution between the Rwandan factions before the world's generosity toward these refugees runs out. Nathan Thomas, ABC News, Goma.
Famine is threatening the Horn of Africa. The United Nations says it could overshadow the starvation that killed hundreds of thousands in the region in 1984 and 85. An official says the world is now dealing with Rwanda, but that a massive food crisis is developing in the meantime in the Horn of Africa. The military-led government of Haiti wants to put deposed President Jean-Bertrand Aristide on trial for treason. Government prosecutors have been ordered to prepare charges against Aristide and the Haitian ambassador to the United Nations. The action is based on Aristide's pressure that led to a UN resolution authorizing the use of force to oust the military dictatorship in Port-au-Prince.
A group of ill-disciplined volunteers, the Tonton Macoute, are by name a chilling reminder of Haiti's infamous death squads. Signed up to fight US Marines, they boast, "We are ready for the white man." This was not the first show of strength since the UN approved an American invasion, but it was the first time the media was allowed to film it. The dictatorship's army appears disorganized and ill-equipped. Against the might of American technology, it's unlikely they would provide anything but an underground resistance. Recent reports, however, suggest any possible invasion is still some way off. The Clinton administration appears to favor a multinational force, and as yet, foreign troops have not been forthcoming.
Iran has quelled 2 days of rioting in Kazvin, 135 kilometers northwest of Tehran. This after the Iranian parliament narrowly rejected a bill to allow the city to separate from Zanjan province. Kazvin wants to become a province in its own right. That would boost its influence, provide more jobs, and give it direct access to the center of power in the capital. An undisclosed number of people were killed or wounded in the 2 days of rioting. Crucial talks between the U.S. and North Korea on Pyongyang's nuclear program have been adjourned until Monday. Talks were supposed to continue tomorrow, but the North Korean delegation chief says there are many complicated issues.
The talks had started off on an optimistic note, the United States saying it hoped to pick up where the two countries had left off in July. But since then, things have changed. With a new North Korean leader, the talks are being watched closely to see if Kim Jong-il will modify his father's existing policy on the nuclear issue and open up to the West. So far, officials have said there will be no change of direction. That's despite the US offering incentives of diplomatic recognition and technical aid if the North toes the line. After 8 hours behind closed doors, the announcement of yet another stalemate.
To say the devil is in the details, however, is something of an understatement, and there are certainly areas of disagreement as well.
The North's delegation leader, Kang Sok-ju, summed up the talks by saying that there were great complications between the two sides. The negotiators are due to meet again on Monday, 2 days later than originally scheduled.
CNN is featuring a new face these days. With a congressional vote on health care on the calendar, President Clinton is doing TV commercials, the latest push for health care reform. Here's Ann Compton.
Harry and Louise, meet Bill.
We've listened, we've heard you. And the new health care approach that will be voted on soon is less bureaucratic.
Time for President Clinton's nightly health care commercials was purchased for nearly $1 million, but only on cable news network.
We did approach the broadcast networks, and we were turned down.
The cable news audience nationwide may be small, but CNN is like ever-present background music on Capitol Hill, where it may have impact on members who just lost a week of vacation. The final vote on health care in the House is 2 weeks from today.
We believe that this schedule will work. It is a finite period of time.
Apparently in the hope that success breeds success, the president and his cabinet have begun celebrating the one-year anniversary of his economic plan. They claim there are 3 million new jobs, steady growth, and new business optimism. That Clinton economic plan, however, barely squeaked through a tie vote in the Senate, a margin of 1 in the House. It was a partisan showdown the White House dreads repeating with health care. Ann Compton, ABC News, the White House.
I'll be back.
What's this color called again?
Fuchsia.
Fuchsia.
I love this new shirt.
Don't you have one just like that already?
Yeah, but it looks dull. And what the heck is this fuzzy stuff?
Introducing New Cheer with Advanced Color Guard. Compare New Cheer with a regular detergent. After many washes, a fuzzy film can build up on cotton. Colors look dull. Cheer helps prevent this film, so your colors look newer, longer.
Honey, where's my... what's the color called?
Fuchsia? This shirt has never looked better.
Can I have a...
New Cheer with Advanced Color Guard. Fuzz goes, color stays. Now with the seal of cotton.
Introducing a Little Downy. Ultra Downy. It's much smaller, and just one tiny capful gives you the fluffiest softness. Watch.
1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4.
Case closed. Ultra Downy. One tiny capful for the height of softness.
Tonya Harding's making headlines again, and it's not because of her sexual photos in Penthouse magazine.
Yeah, right.
She says she's so humiliated that she's planning a hefty lawsuit, and Entertainment Tonight has the exclusive details. Then, Farrah Fawcett gives a lesson on the birds and the bees.
Little boys become big boy men.
On the next Entertainment Tonight.
Entertainment Tonight at 7, following Pulse.
I was born during Montreal's big Olympic year, which makes me 18 today. So I get to vote for the first time in my life on September 12th. I wouldn't miss it for anything. Enumerators are coming August 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th to put me on the electoral list. Hey, I'm not going to miss them either. Because nothing's going to stop me from voting on September 12th.
Chrysler's #1 event of the summer is back. With rebates on thousands of 94 Chrysler cars and trucks. Look for vehicles that have this sticker, and you could save a bundle. That's right, rebates, rebates, and more rebates, or factory financing on thousands of 94 cars and trucks. It only comes once a year, and it's going on now. The #1 event of the summer, only at your local Chrysler dealer.
No matter what time their news comes on, you know who has the final word.
The Canadian Medical Association says...
CTV News with Lloyd Robertson, weeknights at 11, making your world make sense.
Extra blankets tonight. Good weekend coming up. Sunny but cool. That's it. I'm Bill Haugland. See you next week.
For Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, tonight at 8.
I'm John Tesh in the Entertainment Tonight studios. Will Tanya's illicit video put an end to any comeback? We'll have the story.
I'm Mary Hart. We'll key in on Jerry Lee Lewis and find out what he's going to do about those nasty tax problems.
Plus, Geraldo makes a big boo-boo, and we'll take you dancing with Farrah. This is Entertainment Tonight for Friday, August 5th, 1994.
Hi there, everybody. Thank you for joining us. What? No OJ? No Jackson Presley news to start off with?
No, it's an old favorite. Entertainment Tonight has learned Tonya Harding may well be headed back to court. She went before a judge earlier this year in connection with the attack on fellow Olympic skater...